Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is James here at ProPix TV, coming to you from the studios in Vancouver, British Columbia, for another live chat with James. It will be a shorter episode tonight, but I thought I would pop in here with a WTF moment. It appears that an individual, an American citizen, has been sent to the prison in El Salvador in what ICE and the United States administration is calling a clerical error or administrative error. Further to this, not only did they send an American citizen wrongfully to the El Salvadorian prison, they are now stating that they have no authority to bring him back to the U.S. because he is no longer within their custody. As this individual is now in the custody of the El Salvadorian prison system and under the responsibility of the El Salvador government, the U.S. says they have no way of dealing with it in terms of their authority to bring him back to the U.S. This is one of the most disgusting ways in which I've seen this system fail. And I mean, I don't believe that a good portion of the people being deported from the U.S. are all members of gangs. I think that they are using this and failing to identify the individuals because the government also knows that these individuals are not all gang members. It goes against not only the Constitution of the United States, but also against international law. And for this to continue is just a disgrace to the American public, to what the United States of America stands for, and the principles of justice. The fact that they can incarcerate a U.S. citizen and ship him, even though there was an order not to ship him anywhere, they still shipped him to the El Salvadorian prison and now say, oops, our mistake, but we can't do anything about it. That is just wrong on so many levels. The risk to this individual's safety, to their security, while being imprisoned in El Salvador is next level that most Americans can't even fathom. The conditions and the safety risks of those inmates is just off the charts. Now, as a journalist, I have been involved in many investigations in terms of journalism and seeing what happens in prison systems around the world through different research and such. But also, I have been contacted by inmates in certain Central American prisons and South American prisons that have sent footage that I would not even use in the news articles or stories because of the fact that they were so graphic. There was one riot in a prison in South America, and I won't identify the country, but at the same time, I was provided with footage from that riot where an individual was attacked with machetes, he was decapitated, and then other inmates picked up the head of this individual on a machete and paraded it around the jail cell or the common area as if it was a trophy before dropping it into a 10-gallon bucket. The fact that this is happening in the prison systems and the U.S. is shipping people off in total disregard for their safety, for the rule of law, and so many other principles is disgusting. The fact that they further send a U.S. citizen as a clerical error or administrative error, and then say they can't do anything about it because he's no longer in their custody, he's in the custody of another country. That, again, is bullshit. The U.S. is using all of these different policies and ancient rules and laws that are archaic. They are not meant to deal with immigration issues. They are acts that are usually implemented in wartime and only under the worst or the most serious of conditions. And here Donald Trump is continuing to use them to his advantage to misrepresent the laws and the purpose and the whole premise of what they are for. He is destroying the United States of America in the eyes of the international community, and that is wrong. Now, as a journalist, I am exploring the opportunity, and I've reached out to the El Salvadorian government to go down and actually do a tour of the jails to talk to inmates there And it is something that they don't generally do, but I am pushing for that to happen, to go down and actually report on the conditions of the U.S. citizens and the others that are being deported out of the U.S. to find out if we can get to some level of truth to the identity and the actual crimes that have been alleged against these individuals that are now incarcerated within the El Salvadorian prison system. Again, this goes against not only the U.S. Constitution, U.S. laws, and so many other legislated rules and regulations in the U.S., but also goes so steadfastly in the face of the international criminal courts and the international laws that it must be stopped. Now, Donald Trump, instead of actually respecting the courts of his own country, is again waging war against judges who decide that he is breaking the law. He doesn't expect him to uphold any laws in the U.S. if it actually goes against his narrative and what he wants, and that is not acceptable. When it comes to the current condition geopolitically around the world, he is alienating so many of his allies. He is creating a distrust and an anger towards the U.S. against the administration that it needs to stop. He needs to take a step back and realize that what he is doing is not in the best interest of the United States of America, and in fact could cause some more heavier risks when it comes to security of Americans, because he is angering so many different nations by thinking that he can dictate not only what's happening in the U.S., but what's happening on the global scale, and that again is not acceptable. For him to be making open threats towards Iran, to bomb them like they've never seen before in history, to be threatening and stating that they will take control of Greenland and that all cards are on the table, although he doesn't want to, he may use military force if necessary to obtain Greenland and to annex them. He is working towards an economic action against Canada because he wants to annex Canada as well. So he figures that if he can impact Canada financially in the economics realm, then he can crush Canada and be where Canada has to submit to annexation. But he has got another thing coming, because Canadians will not stand for it. Canadians will never become the 51st state, and Canadians will stand proud and tall to protect our sovereignty. And that is the way it is. Whether or not Donald Trump wants to acknowledge it, he is breaking so many laws that are crimes against humanity, among others. And that he needs to be held accountable, and so does his administration, for allowing and enabling this to continue. When you look at what I call the bargain basement Barbie, in other words, Caroline Leavitt, who is the press secretary, she just goes along parroting everything. And when the media tries to hold them to account, she just goes off and attacks the individual reporters or the media organizations. And again, Donald Trump backs her up and again starts saying that these news agencies are illegal and they should be charged or shut down. And again, it is a total disgrace what's happening south of the border. But again, it is important that people stand up and say enough is enough. If you personally agree that there needs to be more accountability, then by all means put your comments in the comments section, both now or if you're watching the repeat broadcast of this online, by all means put your comments in the comments section. I do check them even on the rebroadcast on the various social media platforms. Now, once again, it is just a shame to see what's going on. And I am, as I said, exploring through ProPix Canada Media. We are looking at going down to El Salvador. We are working to get consent from the government there. We don't know if we'll get it, but we are working towards going down to report from El Salvador to try and get access to the prison there to talk to some of the deportees. And I will be sure that when I do go, that I do not have any layovers in the United States of America because, let's face it, I've got a hockey stick tattoo as a Canadian. I've got a hockey stick tattooed on my back, and Donald Trump may identify that as being some member of the ice hockey brigade or something coming to steal the Stanley Cup from America. So yeah, it is time that there is accountability. And when they were talking, and when I refer to they, I'm talking about the U.S. administration. They keep coming out saying that Donald Trump was very clear about his intentions when he took office, but let's not forget that the American citizens, the American public, assumed that when he said he was going after the gang members and the illegal migrants that are breaking laws in the U.S., that they would be doing so by following the law of the United States, respecting the Constitution of the United States, and that all actions to deport individuals would be done with a fair and due process. People did not expect that they were just going to start rounding up people and based on tattoos like a Madrid hockey team soccer team tattoo. They mistook that for a gang tattoo and deported that person down to El Salvador and locked him in the most inhumane conditions. And that's not even looking at, is this just Democrat liberal brainwashing shill channel? No, because you know what? The beauty of it is that you can find another channel to watch. You don't need to watch this channel. But if you think that it's a liberal brainwashing shill channel when it's calling to hold the U.S. government accountable for sending a U.S. citizen by administrative error to the prison in El Salvador, then guess what? I don't know what you're talking about when it comes to accusations of democratic liberal brainwashing, when it's all about the rights of U.S. citizens, regardless as to what side of the aisle that you are on. Republican, liberal, Democrat, it doesn't matter where you sit, whether you're in Canada, the US, the UK. This is not acceptable to send US citizens mistakenly to an El Salvadorian prison and then claim that you don't have any ability or authority to bring them back because they're now in custody of the El Salvadorian government. That is bullshit, and you know it as well as I do. So that's just the way it is. But yeah, again, it is about, respecting the Constitution, respecting laws. And it doesn't seem that it makes sense to me, at least, that if you're going to be looking at breaching the U.S. Constitution, why not start with getting guns out of the schools and doing something about the gun problem in schools in the U.S.? You keep saying that you can't do things because of the Constitution protects the right to bear arms, and yet you are going to break the Constitution and the constitutional rights of citizens of the United States of America. It doesn't make sense to me. Now, they are called amendments in the Constitution for a reason, and they are there in such a way that they can be adapted to the new era, and that is the way that most people with common sense would think. But unfortunately, not everybody thinks that way with common sense. So again, this is all about accountability. And if you want to live in a democratic society, whether you are Republican or Democrat, then you need to stand up and make sure that what is happening in your federal administration is done within the laws of your land and within the rights and boundaries of the Constitution that you hold so sacred, and rightfully so. So once again, this is James from ProPix TV here in Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada. And again, we are having a short show tonight, but I just wanted to bring that point up because I felt that that was a very important point that needed to be brought up and to get out there in the public realm. So make sure that you like, follow, and subscribe to keep up on this story and others as they happen from around the world. Once again, I'm James Cousineau at ProPix Canada TV here in Vancouver, British Columbia. Take care and stay safe, everyone.